Alright, so this is a review of my two most used glue guns. This is the Bosch PKP 18E and is basically a plug in the mains cabled one and dispenses 11mm glue sticks. And this is a relatively new thing from Bosch, which is a glue pen, it's called. I think it's a BA 2000, but basically I think there's only one version of this out at the minute. So either way, I thought I'd cover the pros and cons of why you may want a corded one that can dispense a lot of stuff, and a cordless one, which is a little bit more craft orientated than professional use. So, again, one of the things to say is this isn't endorsed. This is just genuinely my own gear that I've used. I've had this for easily about 5 years now. It's been accidentally left on. It hasn't burst into flames. Even though I've put some, knockoff cheap glue sticks in, it hasn't really suffered and seems to cope. And I think it's just gone through a lot of wear and tear, even though it's in really good shape. One of the things you notice with a lot of glue guns is they're usually like school ones, they're just caked in glue. And I think a lot of this is down to this very humble, cheap looking bit of metal, which seems to have been really well designed, not only just to stand up like that, but even when it gets knocked over, it doesn't just sit in basically its own pool of glue melting into the plastic and just picking up all sorts of fluff and whatever. So I think that's why this is in really good shape, but this has been used extensively, as I said, for over 5 years. I think another really good thing that it's got, which a lot of glue guns don't have, is a really fine nozzle. This has honestly allowed me to get into all sorts of nooks and crannies, and at times even just sort of like jabbing into places with a bit of force. So even though, as you can see, this has been bent because I've dropped it, you can maybe just see the bend there, it's just really stood up to abuse for all those years, and it's been through all sorts of demonstrations and workshops. So I think this is a really good investment. They tend to be around 15 to 20 pounds, so I guess maybe closer to sort of 20 bucks, but essentially I just think these are absolutely, they chuck out the glue. You get quite a lot, as you can see there, and it's pretty steaming hot. I've actually turned that off at the minute. And I think one of the things I thought I'd suggest as well is these little cutoff timers. So as you can see on the side here, this cuts off after half an hour increments all the way up to 8 hours, and has a count up and a count down, but we're obviously using the countdown. So all you do is plug it in, like this, and then hit that button, and after 30 minutes this would switch off. Now that might seem pretty trivial, but having worked in labs where I've come back and been suspicious that one of these has been left on all night, it could produce a fire risk. So I think for the sake of 10 quid, 10 bucks, these are a fantastic investment. So anyway, the other thing is, as you can see, this dispenses quite a bit of glue. This one, the thing that I like about it is that it warms up pretty quickly. So as you can see, it's flashing and it'll go stable when it's at a good temperature. But I think what's great about this is I have a toddler who I let use this, but it dispenses such a small amount of glue, and the nozzle isn't basically sticking out like a big chunk of plastic metal like this. So relatively speaking, even though I supervise him, I think there's a lot lower risk in getting a sort of really serious burn that would mean a trip to the hospital or just a lot of compresses. So yeah, while I've been talking, it's basically at temperature, and just in comparison, you can see quite a small amount of glue. In focus, yep. And so you can see it's much less, and even the fact it's not steaming as it's coming out really suggests this is operating at a much gentler temperature. With that said, it's still just as versatile, and you can put a small bead of glue pretty accurately wherever you want it. And so you can see there, it really doesn't struggle to put a small bead down. And I would say for a lot of craft projects and working quickly, this is actually preferable. I'd say there's only one small design niggle I have with it, which is that this, you can put a new glue stick in and it typically won't fall out. This one, you're working often in like quite unusual spaces, and so actually it does get tipped upside down, but I think a good trick is to quickly dop it on the end and push it in, and then it holds it. But I think that's reasonably small small gripe for something which also has just terrific versatility in that it comes with its own wall charger, which is a micro USB, if you're familiar with these, and it just plugs in the back. And I'd say that this charges up from flat in probably a few hours, which is a little bit of a time to wait. But I think in fairness, most projects only need a little bit of glue. You're not using it for hours on end like you would this. And I think you still get a good, between 5 to 10 minutes out of it. I'd say, continuous working, continuous dispensing. And so realistically, that spread out over a half an hour project, I tend to find I can work for half an hour happily on one charge with this. And in all honesty, I put it back on charge, go do something else, cut up some new shapes, do some drawing, and I find that it's usually charged up enough to still get another bit of work out. So I find that in all honesty, doing an hour and a half's project hasn't caused me any reason to sort of complain. For the safety, again, if you chuck this in water, I wouldn't advise it, but it's not going to be anywhere near as risky as using mains voltage around kids or people who are new to crafts. So I really think this is a terrific little sort of sidekick tool, and I think it just really lowers the risk for people who are new to using with hot melt glue gun, whilst at the same time just being kind of fun and versatile. So I hope that's useful. Please post any comments or questions, happy to answer them, and thanks for watching. Bye.